Everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So we started off this conversation a while ago regarding Microsoft's buying power. I covered this on the Video Game Fight School channel about a year or two ago. Even on my main channel, I think I'd also covered some of this same, I would say progression of Microsoft's entrance into gaming. And there have been a lot of other coverage in terms of Microsoft being able to purchase studios for development and all of the above. For the longest time, it seemed like Microsoft never necessarily had a lot of influence because they were in the building phases. They had been acquiring studios, they'd been gathering developers from other established studios, even some of the studios that have done some Sony exclusives to get some work done for some IPs for them. Not until recently, when they acquired ZeniMax Studios, that people kind of see a little bit of seriousness from them. And now that Activision Blizzard has been acquired, I guess it's now in the place where everyone has paid a little bit more attention. Now, to be very honest and to be fair, some conversations I've been having with some of my friends that we play, another video game together that's not necessarily superhero-based games, it doesn't really seem like a big impact. A lot of the games that Activision Blizzard does make is not necessarily in the purview of most gamers. Even though Call of Duty is a heavy hitter, we get it. It doesn't necessarily seem like it will push a lot of people or pull a lot of weight in that sense. But here's the deal. I think what's happened has really checked other proxies, not just Sony, but other development studios, other publishers, and everyone, that is in a sense relevant to the entire gaming scene. Because gaming has been, and many people may not know this, one of the biggest and most profitable areas of software development for years, dwarfing almost every other sector. So this purchase that Microsoft has made is a purchase and an investment for future in terms of them having a lot of leverage in there. And this brings me to where Spider-Man comes into the conversation. Spider-Man seemed like it has always been a huge playing card for Sony in terms of the console sales and pushing for consoles to get out the door. So they've kind of used it as kind of a means to sell out consoles using the Spider-Man game that came out in 2018, Miles Morales, and then even the remastered. Now, I have to be honest, these games are very well made games. They're solid games, and they did push out a lot of console sales in the PS4, PS4 Pro era. And so I think that they actually taking that in terms of their license and actually honoring what I think many have called some kind of an exclusivity license because of Disney, they've done a good job with it. But now I think it's time for Sony to go back to the negotiation table and figure out a way that they can get Spider-Man to as many hands as possible. Now, this is a very big deal because as much as you may want to chalk it up and say, oh, Spider-Man needs to stay on PlayStation and sell more consoles, we have to be very frank with ourselves. The console war is not relevant anymore. Microsoft Xbox has provided for itself an entire ecosystem and has gamers already locked in, and they will more than likely continue to stay in those ecosystems as time goes on. It doesn't seem like people are actually in a place where they're willing to just bounce or move over to somewhere else. And if they never were Sony fans, they necessarily don't have any reason to come to the Sony side. In fact, there's so much that Microsoft has provided and made available that even if you were looking to buy a Nintendo Switch anymore, the xCloud subscription service that's available through Game Pass Ultimate is something that you can basically carry much more games now on your, mobile device or whatever it is that you can play and access games from and be able to allow for cross progression, cross save, and everything just using a simple Wi-Fi connection. And in today's day and age, depending on where you are in the Western Hemisphere, that's not something that is beyond your reach. You can enjoy Wi-Fi access in many places. Now, what can Sony do to mitigate this bleeding? Because this is what it is. I think Microsoft had been taking the approach of death by a thousand cuts. They've been doing all these little things, cross platforms, cross save. They've been doing backward compatibility, something that Sony refused to do, but has now shown up to be very, very relevant on top of all of what Microsoft is doing. I think they have this card called Spider-Man. Now, in pride, Sony may not bring Spider-Man to Xbox, and I'm not saying necessarily this, but Sony already has established a PC arm called PlayStation PC. Now, why in the world will you have a PlayStation PC ARM and still have exclusives that you can bring to a plethora of players that will be very, very happy to engage in your game? I think the answer is it is a no-brainer that they have to start considering this option, not only considering the option, but considering the option very quickly. Why do I say so? Now, we know that some of the PlayStation games that have made their way to PC via Steam and even Epic Games have seen a lot of success. They've actually seen a lot of welcome success. This is not something that anybody can just throw out there. This is something that you can actually objectively see the amount of welcome success that these games have received. God of War right now on Steam has a 97% positive review based on purchases in its first week on Steam. This is insane. Now, this is not counting potentially those who bought the game on Epic Store. If you even look at Horizon Zero Dawn, yes, even if it was first plagued with a few issues in terms of performance, it still has an 84% overwhelmingly positive review on Steam. I mean, that's crazy. If you also want to go even further and say, well, I wonder how Days Gone is doing, well, the answer is quite simple. Days Gone is also enjoying a very, very high positive welcome review rate, and at this point, it's got about a 92 to 93% positive review rating. So the PlayStation games are already solid. All that's left is that they bring it to a wider audience. Now, for those of you who may be PlayStation fans like myself, we may say, well, what is the point of us buying a PlayStation to enjoy the exclusives? The answer is quite simple. We got them when the market was favorable for them to use the exclusives as a leverage to get people to buy their consoles. At this moment in time, it is not necessarily the case. I think they need to play to win. You see, the fun and wonderful exclusives that you're getting on Sony is dependent on them making huge numbers of sales. It's not just a matter of just them blowing hundreds or tens of millions of dollars per game, hundreds of millions in a collective to get these games made. It's also a matter of these games being able to draw in a profit so that sequels can be made and then we can continue to enjoy them. So for the greater good, in a sense, I wouldn't say the greater good, let's just say for the future benefit of these games continuing to be provided to us, it is necessary that Sony have a master plan in terms of how they can bring this game to more people into more hands. And so right now it's time for them to make the move, because what Microsoft has done in this sense is basically dwarf a lot of different, the relevance of a lot of different, video game companies in a sense, because they've already been able to leverage a huge portion of the software market and even the hardware market. But these are my thoughts nonetheless, and a continuation of my video, which I appreciate you guys for even taking the time to watch that video. It's right now approaching 20,000 views, where I actually mentioned that Spider-Man needed to make its way to PC. And I just thought that it is much more relevant today, now that we actually do have this particular announcement. I think more than necessary, we really, really do have to see this in play. Thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. Hopefully we'll talk soon. Peace out.